Hello everybody, it's Delilah and welcome back to my channel. I am really excited to be sharing today's video. Annie is in the background here scooting around and playing with toys. I'm so excited for today's video because I am going to be talking about all things homeschool, which is something I have become very passionate about over the last 3 years. Today's video is sponsored by one of my favorites, KiwiCo, which I will talk about a little bit more later on. But every year for the last 3 years, which is how long I've been homeschooling, I have filmed a video similar to this, just chatting about our routine and what our school days look like and our curriculum and the resources that we're using and how I'm approaching teaching. And it's really interesting looking back and seeing the progress that we've made from when we first started. Like when we first started, we only had 3 kids. Now we have 4, so a lot has changed in that time, and the way that we approach things and the way that our schedule looks like now. This is also the first year that I am teaching 2 kids. So my daughter is in grade 2 this year and my son is in kindergarten. I'm also entertaining a toddler and a baby alongside all of that. So there's a lot going on in our days. We're about 5 weeks into this new school year and I think things are really starting to flow. We're getting a routine down. I'm by no means an expert. I've only been teaching homeschool for 3 years. But regardless, I enjoy sharing my experience because I enjoy hearing from other moms, no matter how many years of experience they've had, no matter how many children they're teaching, no matter how many grades or how old their children are. It's really interesting to hear from moms of all areas to see how they're approaching schooling and how they're approaching teaching and maybe some of the problem areas they're experiencing and how they're tackling that, and then also hearing about the wins and what's really working for them and what their routines look like. And so that is why I share these videos, to offer some encouragement and some inspiration for all of you moms who are homeschooling and maybe moms who are considering homeschooling as well. I know it's definitely not for everyone, and that's totally okay. Homeschool is not the only way to go, but for us it has been the biggest blessing, and I'm just so grateful that God opened up that door and allowed this all to take place. You probably know that I am someone who never ever expected to homeschool. I never saw myself homeschooling. I've always said that I'm just not good at teaching. I don't know enough, I'm not patient enough, I'm not good enough. But the Lord has totally squashed all those lies, and I've realized that homeschool isn't about being the perfect teacher, about being super patient, about knowing everything. It's so much more about learning together with your children and creating a learning experience and a learning environment that's really exciting, that they feel comfortable in, and they can learn and grow and learn to love learning as well. That is one of many reasons that we have chosen to homeschool. We love the flexibility that we have with homeschool, that we don't have to cater to a certain schedule or routine. We can make up our own routines and we can do things our own way. I'm able to spend more one-on-one time with my children on certain subjects that maybe they're struggling in. And I am able to manipulate the teaching style to suit my children instead of trying to manipulate my children to suit the learning style. And I think that's just something really, really beautiful about homeschooling. So in today's video, we're going to be talking all about our routine and our resources, what it looks like to apply for school here in Saskatchewan, and why we've chosen to do certain things the way that we've chosen. Also how I entertain my toddler and my baby while I am teaching, and just how all of that flows together for us. I will not be talking so much about curriculum today just because this video would be way too long if I were to talk about everything. I actually just shared a video over on Patreon all about our curriculum. I went into all of the little details. This year we've chosen to go with a mix of different curriculums to match our individual needs. I shared all of that in that video, so if you want to check that out, you can head on over to my Patreon. For $5 a month, you're going to unlock exclusive videos that are only for my Patreon members. You're going to get my YouTube videos completely ad-free, and you're going to get them early, and you're going to unlock a lot of other bonus things as well. So make sure to go check that out if you're curious. But for now, we're going to start this video off with the requirements and what it looks like in Saskatchewan to apply for home-based education. So we live in Saskatchewan, Canada, and it varies from province to province what is required and what is not. I'm sure in different countries it varies from state to state, from country to country. For us in Saskatchewan, home-based education doesn't technically start until grade 1. So while I am teaching my son kindergarten this year, he isn't actually registered in the school system until grade 1. At the beginning of every year, we have to create an education plan for each student that is in home-based education, outlining different goals that we want to reach by the end of the year. These goals I take from the Government of Saskatchewan website, which outlines expectations, various expectations for different subjects, for different grades. So we are required to report on math, language arts, social studies, and science. Everything else is completely optional. I don't have to teach it, I don't have to report it, but there are a lot of other things that we choose to teach our children because we believe that they are very important. So for each of those 4 subjects, we are required to pick out 3 goals. These goals are very broad, and there's a lot of different goals to choose from. So we've got some leeway. It's not very strict, but there are still guidelines and rules that we do need to follow. Now, how we reach those goals is completely up to us. The way that we teach them, the curriculum that we choose, that is entirely in our hands. We aren't required to do like a certain curriculum or a certain method of teaching. There are no tests required. We don't have to do anything like that. It's purely based off of the parents' assessment of the child and how we feel they have reached those goals. So at the end of the year, we need to create a summative report for each child, which basically just explains how we have met the goals that we stated at the beginning of the year, what methods we use to teach, and how well we feel that they understand and have reached those goals. So that's kind of how it works for us. Because we are registered with home-based education, there are certain advantages that we get. Like, for example, we get free gym time at a certain time at certain locations each week. We have access to labs and different things for when the kids get older. There's a lot of different programs and resources that are available to us, which is really nice. We do believe that extracurricular activities is really important, especially for home-based education, just because we are at home with our own family all day, and that socialization is important. Our kids get that in a lot of different ways. We do play dates often, we go to church, we're often out and about, and our kids are interacting with a lot of different age groups. They're interacting with adults when we are at the grocery store, when we're at the mail, when we're at a restaurant. They're interacting with kids of all ages when we're at the park, and they're interacting with a lot of other children when they are at their extracurricular activities as well. I think that is one of the most common questions about home-based education, and honestly one of the biggest questions I had going into this was, how do I get my children to socialize? Excuse me. No, thank you. I don't remember what I was saying now. Yes? When she gets screechy, that usually means that she's ready for a nap. Are you ready for a nap? Yeah. Should I go put you down? Okay. Be right back. Okay, now let's chat about each subject and how we teach it and how we approach it. Like I said, there are 4 main subjects that we need to report on, such as language arts, math, social studies, and science. The core subjects being language arts and math. Those are the ones that we do bookwork for. Those are the ones that we do every single day. But as for social studies and science, we don't do that quite as often because a lot of social studies and science, at least in this age group, really happens during everyday life. And so I don't want to make too much of a point of actually doing bookwork for it, because I want it to be more of a natural learning experience rather than we need to sit down and do bookwork in order to learn social studies and science. We only officially do maybe a social studies lesson or a science lesson once every week or every 2 weeks. And usually it's a matter of me just like sitting down and reading them a book, or making a point of going on a walk with them, and then while we're on a walk, chatting about the weather and climate and humidity, the changing colors of the leaves, and noticing the bugs around us and talking about their life cycles. Like, just having these conversations during a walk. I find my children soak up information so much more when we do it that way rather than sitting down and doing a bunch of paperwork, because we're outside and we're living that moment and we're seeing it face to face and learning about it as we're seeing it. And they're interested in learning about it if they're right there instead of sitting behind a desk. Right now my children are really interested in bugs. They've been catching bugs like crazy, and so I went to the library and I got them some books about crickets and grasshoppers and other bugs that they have been loving. And my kids are just soaking it up. They're reading these books, they're learning about what they like to eat, and they're learning about their life cycle, and they're catching these bugs, and then according to what they've researched, they are feeding these bugs what they like to eat, and they're making their environment the way that they like their environment. And they're doing it really hands-on, completely on their own. Like, all I had to do was go to the library and get some books and I'm just letting them do the rest. For family movie nights, we'll watch documentaries or we'll watch educational shows. There are so many ways that you can get in a social studies lesson or a science lesson, but I think our most favorite way is through KiwiCo. KiwiCo just launched a new program called KiwiCo Clubs, which is a little bit different than what you're used to. With KiwiCo Clubs, you're getting more than just a crate at your door each month. You're getting a learning program, you're getting repeated play, and you're getting continued learning. Each club covers all sorts of topics such as world discovery and science and engineering and more. And you still get that hands-on learning experience that just sparks so much joy and excitement. This month, my oldest, my daughter, got the archery set from the KiwiCo Labs line. This is for ages 6 and up, and this has been so much fun. They've been playing with it over and over and over again. You can actually see part of it in the background here. She got to make a bow that shoots balls, and then they get to repeatedly practice shooting the balls at this Velcro target. Zach was really excited about this one, and he was getting in there and he was playing with them, and they were just having a lot of fun with this one. We've had a crate very similar to this in the past with the original KiwiCo line, and I could tell this one was just a lot more better quality, better built, so that they can play with it over and over again. It's not going to be something that gets broken and I end up having to recycle it. It's going to be something that's going to stick around for a long time. My boys each got a crate from the KiwiCo Sprout line, which is for ages 3 to 6, and it is really focused around early learning and a lot of pretend play, which I'm really enjoying. I find that those ages 3 to 6, my kids just want to play and they learn so much through play. And so getting a crate that is based so much on pretend play has been really valuable. So Theodore got the camping adventure one, and in this one he got to create a fire and he got to pretend to roast s'mores, and there was a play tent structure, so we made a tent. All my kids played together doing this all morning long. They've come back to it over and over again. William got the space exploration crate, and in this one he gets to make a rocket launcher, and there's a bunch of different games that he can play. And I've noticed with this KiwiCo Sprout line, it's not so intense. There's not so much putting together and following instructions. There certainly is some of that, but it's not so heavily focused on that. The quality of the items inside has improved significantly so that the pretend play is really the focus here, and that they can continue learning and playing all month long. Now my youngest, my daughter, she got the KiwiCo Panda crate, which is for ages 0 to 3. She got the Let's Count crate, which is very focused on her developmental skills right now. Everything in that crate is just so perfect for exactly what she's learning at that moment. Like I said before, a huge reason why we choose to homeschool is because we just really want our children to love learning, and KiwiCo helps us do that with a crate that comes to our door every single month that they are really excited about and that they can physically put their hands to and build themselves. And if they're enjoying what they're doing, it doesn't feel like mundane learning. It feels like an exciting adventure and something that's going to stick with them for a lifetime. Each crate you receive will be a little bit more challenging, which is going to slowly build up your child's skills over time. And with each crate, you're going to unlock bonus rewards and exclusive digital content. So there's a lot of fun free perks included in this as well. And of course, I have a discount code for you. So you can use my code Delilah to get 50% off your first subscription at kiwico.com/Delilah. It is all linked for you down in the description box below. So make sure to go and check that out. Thank you again, KiwiCo, for sponsoring today's video. Now let's go ahead and chat about language arts and math. That is the bulk of our official homeschool mornings, is doing that bookwork. I'll spend time with both my older kids going through language arts and math in the morning. But aside from that, we do a lot of other warm-up activities and fun activities here and there. We'll play games outside where I'll draw chalk on the ground and they'll have to go run after the letters. We'll do like a hopscotch game where instead of numbers, we'll do letters or words. We'll play games like Hangman. We'll use different educational and spelling toys from Amazon that we've purchased. We do lots of puzzles and board games, a lot of reading. For language arts, we do a lot of reading. And I think that's just the best thing that you can do, especially when you're learning words and spelling. Reading is just the best thing, whether you're reading to your child or your child is reading with you or your child is reading on their own. My daughter reads all the time. She loves reading, and I so love that she loves reading, and it has made our language arts studies just so fast and so easy. For math, it's very much the same thing. We do our bookwork. It doesn't take us very long, and then it's just a lot of practical life stuff, like having my daughter count out exactly how much money she needs to buy a certain item at the store, or asking them to tell me what time it is, or counting the stairs as we're walking up the stairs. A lot of math happens in practical things like baking or even doing laundry, or Zach will have them outside working in the garage doing different things. There's a lot of practical math and life skills that can be learned just in everyday life. Okay, now the last part of the video, we're gonna chat about our routine and what that looks like for us this year. So we do school officially about 4 days a week, sometimes 3 days a week. If we were to do school 4 days a week, starting from the time we started, which was the last week in August, all the way to the end, we would be done before April. I don't want to be done quite that early. I want to take our time and go through it slowly and not put so much pressure on myself to get it all done like right away in a big chunk. I want it to be a lot more casual and easygoing. Because we have all this time, I am giving ourselves a lot of grace. So if there are a lot of errands that we need to run one day, I'm not gonna bother trying to squeeze school into that day. We're just gonna let that be an errand day. And then that would just be a 3-day school week. Or if we have a play date in the morning and it goes a little bit late, I'm not gonna worry about it. We're just gonna have a 3-day school week. Or if we wanna take some time off to go on a vacation or go on a field trip, we have the leniency to do that. Ideally, I would like to be done school by the end of April, beginning of May. So we have like a month and a half of leniency here. Our official school time really is quite short. It's just a couple of hours in the morning. The learning really happens all day long. So it kind of starts in the morning at breakfast time. We will read a couple of Bible stories at breakfast, and then we'll just have discussions. You know, we'll talk about the day, we'll talk about the story that we're reading, we'll talk about what's on their hearts and what's on their minds. And then we'll move into chores, and this is where practical life skills comes in. This is something obviously that we're not required to talk about, but this is something that to Zach and I is extremely important that we are teaching our children. Each of our children are assigned certain chores, and they do these every single day. They rotate throughout the weeks. I chatted all about this in a recent video that I will leave linked down below about kids' chores and how we handle them, but this is a huge part of our homeschool routine. After they are done their chores, they are expected to go and get themselves ready. And while they're getting themselves ready, I am finishing the cleanup in the kitchen and I am preparing for the school day. Once we're all ready, around 9 or 10 in the morning is when we will officially start. So we will all gather here in the playroom. We'll first start with a prayer. Every school morning starts with a prayer. It is very important to us that we just invite the Lord into our time together and that we pray together. This is the time where we work on some memorization. So each week we have a different memory verse, which I have up on the wall right there. We make it fun. We do little hand actions, or we'll do funny voices, and we'll take turns presenting our memory verses to one another. Other things we want to work on memorizing this year are things like the national anthem and the Lord's Prayer, and just, you know, like practical things that they should probably know. Other things we'll go over are our phone numbers, our address, days of the week, months of the year. We will move over to our calendar, which we have just over there, and we'll talk about that. We'll sing the songs that helps them memorize the months of the year, the days of the week. We'll discuss anything that might be happening that week so that they can be mentally prepared for what to expect that week. Once all that is done, we move into copy work / read aloud time. So my oldest two each have a handwriting book where they practice doing various copy work and practicing their spelling and writing skills. So while their hands are busy with that, I find that is the best time for me to do a read aloud. So I'll read about 10 minutes every day from a chapter book. Currently, we are taking a break from Little House on the Prairie to read the BFG, which I remember reading in school, so it's kind of nostalgic for me. It's kind of a full circle moment. This is something that they really look forward to. In fact, my daughter said this is her favorite part about homeschool, is when she just gets to listen to me read. So once we're done that, we move into official lessons. And going into this, I knew I was going to have to be strategic about how we did the book work. Just based off of what I knew from last year, it's kind of a balancing act. Like, I've got a baby, I've got a toddler, and now I'm trying to teach 2 children 2 separate lessons each day. For 2 different subjects. It's kind of a lot. So often our book work happens when my baby is napping. She is just about to transition from 2 naps to 1 nap. Like, we're kind of on the verge of that. So there have been some mornings where she has just hung out with my toddler, with William, all morning, and she does really well. She plays independently so good, which I am just so thankful for. So a lot of the time, William and Annabeth are just kind of hanging out. They're playing here in the playroom, they're playing in the living room, They're hanging around by our feet. Sometimes I will bring out like a sensory activity of some kind. Sometimes I'll take out like Play-Doh or kinetic sand or water for them to splash around it. Or I'll just bring out like a puzzle or a different educational toy that they don't often play with, so that it's kind of new and fun for them to play with and entertains them for a little bit longer. Now, as for the actual teaching part, I usually start with language arts for my daughter, which doesn't take very long, and then she moves on to 20 minutes of reading after her language arts lesson. So while she is off reading, I am doing language arts with my son. By the time he's done his language arts lesson, usually my daughter has finished her reading, and so we will move on to math with her. And while I'm doing math with my daughter, then my son is off playing. He's having a break, he's running around. When he is ready, I'll call him back and we'll finish up his math, which usually doesn't take very long at all, and then we are done our school day. The routine that we have works really well. Now, we try really hard to do this all in the morning time. I find that their focus is so much better in the morning than it is in the afternoon, because by the time that we get to the afternoon, they just don't want to sit. They don't want to be there. They don't want to focus. They just want to be goofy. They want to be silly. They want to run around and move. They want to do their own thing. You know, they want to play. So we try really hard to do school in the morning when possible. Of course, there is the odd exception, which is going to happen. I mean, that's one of the perks of homeschooling, is that we don't have to stick to a certain schedule. We can make our own schedule. But we do try and keep somewhat of a routine to make it familiar to them and for me as well. After the big bookwork stuff is done, we will sometimes just be done for the day, especially if we've got a lot of other stuff going on, or maybe errands or a play date or, you know, something else happening that day. Or we will move into some other form of study. Sometimes we'll do a science study that I've purchased for them. Sometimes I'll do some extra reading with my son. Sometimes my daughter will do typing. She's learning typing this year. Sometimes we'll just sit down and read a book. Or I'll plan out a different lesson or discussion based on the goals that we need to meet for social studies and science. I try and do a little something extra after all the official book work every single day, just so that I'm on top of it. One thing that I did last year was, because I had a newborn, my daughter was born at the end of August, which is pretty much right when we started homeschool. So it was a very chaotic first half of the school year, and I didn't do any social studies or science. But I wanted to be just a little bit more consistent and diligent with that and planning it out ahead of time, so that I'm not trying to like cram a bunch of stuff in at the end of the year. I've been talking for a really long time, but I think we have officially come to the end of this video, and that completely covers all things homeschool, I think. If you have any more questions, anything else that you want to know about our current routine, let me know in the comments and I will try and answer those questions, maybe over on Instagram, maybe in a separate video. This is a routine that has been working really well for us over the last 5 weeks. I can see it changing a little bit maybe once my daughter starts napping in the afternoons. We may possibly move our bookwork to the afternoons just to have that, you know, quiet time. Though, like I said, their focus just isn't that great in the afternoon. So I'm not sure what's gonna happen. We actually did that last year while my toddler was napping, and it worked really well for us in that season. But in this season, I think the morning is just the way to go for us. I mean, all of that is subject to change. Our entire routine is subject to change based off of our individual needs and what happens every day. But yeah, that's where we are right now. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.